We're about to say farewell to our intrepid reporter, young Callum Foote, who's been with us for the imaginably long period of 4 years. And we say imaginably long period because Callum is a millennial. He joined us from uni, and 4 years in the millennial jobs trade is a very, very long time. It's an epoch. We've had a lot of thrills and spills over this time. We've gone through ScoMo, through COVID, through lockdowns, through myriad political rorts and corporate shenanigans. Callum has covered it all, and he's been thrown out of more meetings than any journalist perhaps his age, and we recommend him for that, because the role of a good journalist is, the essence of it, is to be a pest. Callum's off to the London Stock Exchange, so we can say proudly that we've played a part in furthering his career, along with other journalists that work with us that have gone to The Guardian, to a US digital multinational, onto a law firm and other places. It's been a bit of a breeding ground, and Callum has been at the forefront of Michael West Media now for a long time. So we just want to illuminate some of his achievements in being a terrible pest. When we did the Lobbyland series down in Canberra, he managed to get moved on by blokes in dark suits. It's a weird place, Canberra. There's all this sort of, that's the spy capital of Australia, and, trying to film anywhere just isn't possible without getting interrupted by somebody sort of asking you what you're doing. He press-ganged opposition leader Peter Dutton at a restaurant on the same trip, which showed great qualities as a journalist, running up to Dutts and grabbing a selfie and then chucking it on top of his Twitter feed. But it's in some of the subject areas that we've covered, in weapons, in pokies, and in deforestation, where Callum has really made a mark in getting bans and getting epically stonewalled. Last year, he was banned from getting into the Weapons Expo in Brisbane, the Land Forces Weapons Expo. It's like the weapons fair, where all the military people and all the weapons manufacturers' reps hang out and talk about how great their weapons are. Now, of course, the ABC and Rupert Murdoch's News Corp were allowed to cover this event, this weapons fair, but when we tried to get a badge to get in, we sent Callum to Brisbane to cover it. We were told by the organisers of Land Forces, we'll quote them, that our coverage of the weapons industry was deemed too aggressive for Land Forces, and therefore we would not be getting an invitation to the event. So we covered it from outside, and what did we find? Well, we found, upon analysing the people behind Land Forces, it was run by a mob called AMDA, which is a charity. So in fact, we're all subsidising the weapons industry, the foreign multinational and local manufacturers of weapons via this charity called AMDA. But we were rather tickled at the weapons industry claim that we were too aggressive. A 25-year-old reporter with a notebook was too aggressive for the arms dealers of the world. Of course, the fair in other media got all the plaudits that it wanted because, of course, Rupert Murdoch's mob loves a war. They can't get enough of a war. And so it got very nice coverage there. In fact, there were links between the weapons lobby and Murdoch's News Corporation as we recorded. Clearly, there's more money in killing people than helping them. So we covered the weapons industry a bit, and the military, of course. We've got Rex Patrick doing it now, incredibly the best coverage of the military-industrial complex and, of course, transparency in the Australian media. But we have been covering it for some time, and the secrecy around this is incredible. I mean, just the simple question to the ADF or to the Department of Defence, how many US troops are stationed in Australia? Of course, the Chinese obviously know the answer, but we wouldn't get a response to these basic questions. A lot of stonewalling. We had terrific fun during the ScoMo years, though, because trying to figure out all ScoMo's rorts, all the rorts of the ScoMo government, was quite a task. And remember, the coal to Ukraine thing, we chased that for a while because it was so implausible, one of ScoMo's myriad announcements, that we would be sending a ship full of Australian coal up through the Suez Canal, presumably. You wouldn't want to go the other way around the world, into the Black Sea, blithely sailing past the Russian Navy, and then delivering your charitable coal to the Ukrainian resistance. We never got to the bottom of that one. And of course, when Labor came in, they weren't helpful either. They're not as bad, but they're bad. Then there's deforestation, which is an embarrassment, and there's a lot of secrecy around that. So the other day this year, Callum went off to cover a deforestation conference at a swanky hotel in Sydney. It was called the Montreal Process Working Group, where a bunch of international scientists comes down to Australia and has a conference with Australian forestry management types. Now, you would think there's huge public interest in this, given the situation with deforestation of loggers ripping down native forests in New South Wales and the threat to the koala population and other native species. But of course, after the common bureaucratic rigmarole of finding the right email address even to contact these people, we were told by an Agriculture Department spokesperson to quote, "The MPG," that's the Montreal Process Working Group, "has no permanent staff or headquarters, and the Australian government is not able to facilitate contact or interviews with its members." We weren't allowed physically into the event either when Callum went to go along to the Montreal Process Working Group, but after an epic stonewalling, we managed to find a few of the scientists anyway, who all told us that deforestation in Australia was either out of control or very risky to the environment. There's a lot of secrecy around it, as mentioned. And one of them told us they were all critical of deforestation, all critical of the department, all critical of Australia's track record. And one of us even said that we rivaled the Congo in terms of ripping down native forests for logging. It was that bad. Anyway, it's a great story. You should read that one on the website. We'll link it to this thing. It's very funny trying to get into this meeting of scientists. And then there's, of course, the pièce de résistance, the biggest, the most thuggish lobby group in Australia, perhaps outside the Zionist Israel lobby, is the New South Wales poker machine lobby, the pokies lobby, who do the dirty work for some of the other states as well. It's called Clubs New South Wales. These guys are best of breed when it comes to bullying journalists, always threatening them with defamation and legal actions. They went after Friendly Geordies. They went after whistleblower Troy Stoltz. They threatened a lot of people. I feel as though I'm the only journalist in Australia that hasn't been threatened by them. So Callum bobs along to their annual general meeting. Of course, no journalists allowed. That's the kind of level of transparency from the pokies lobby, which is very embarrassed about exploiting human misery, of course, because clubs claim that they give back so much to the community. Well, we've gone through all their accounts and we found it's about 3% given back to community causes. It's a complete rort, but it is a big money spinner for the state. Callum goes along to the annual meeting of Clubs New South Wales, representing the industry which represents the highest gambling segment in the highest gambling state or province in the highest gambling country in the world. Clubs, pokies. See whether we can get a few straight answers about why they were bullying whistleblowers and so on. These guys are serious thugs. So Callum managed to get through the security somehow, and he even asked a question of the guy running the show, Josh Landis, who basically answered the question about Troy Stoltz, and then Callum was soon thrown out of the meeting by security guards and apparently even followed up the street. So we're sad to see Callum Foote go. He's been a terrific journalist. We wish him all the best at the London Stock Exchange. He may even move to London at some point. This kind of person is very difficult to replace because besides being able to do shorthand and use Google, one of the greatest qualities a journalist can exhibit is tenacity and being a super pest. And Callum has done that without even once putting himself up for one of those industry awards or any accolade, just doing his job. He will be hard to replace. Thanks for your support. All the people who financially supported us have helped support Callum and pay him over the years. Without you, we would not be able to do that. So it's incredibly important. And we look forward to helping more young journalists find a career. And we also look forward to producing more and better independent investigative content with no corporate agendas and no political agendas. So thank you.